Is this not the coolest thing in the world? Toronto kid, Buffalo Bill, back in the building, close to home. Parents are in the car on their way down here for dinner. Couldn't be more excited to be here. I feel like I belong here. It almost happened last year, and I'm just so thankful that it's finally happened. I'm here and immerse myself in the culture, and I think when I walked in the building, and I've said this a couple times, but between the players and the coaches and the people that I ran into, the first word at everybody's mouth, culture. And, I could tell that that's something that they really take to heart here, and it's something that's really important to them. And, I've already felt that in the few hours I've been in the building. This is a special place.
So you graduated from high school in Ohio. Is your family still in Oakville, or just tell us about it? Are your parents still in Oakville? Do you have most of your family there?
Everybody is born and raised Toronto. They're all Canucks. They all live there now. Aunts, uncles, brother. Everybody's up there. They're going to be coming to all the games. This is obviously a lot closer for them to come to, so they're very, very excited.
So were you a Bills fan growing up, a Bengals fan?
A little bit of both. I think you can't live in Toronto without becoming part of Bills Mafia and being around there. And when we did go to Ohio, then you kind of immerse yourself in the Cincinnati, but Buffalo has always just been a special place in my heart. When we would be in Toronto and come down and go visit Niagara or, keep going into Buffalo, it feels like a part of my childhood and just feels like a full circle moment for me.
Ever been to a Bills game?
I have not actually been to a Bills game, but, if you count my practice squad year in 2020, we came to the Bills, but watch that in the box if you count that.
What have you been told about Bills Mafia and the culture here?
I don't really think you need to be told much. I think you're going to see it whether you like it or not, and I think that's really, really cool. Obviously, the flamethrowers and the chairs and the ketchup and the mustard, and it just feels like a really, really fun community to be a part of. I know my family's really excited to be a part of it. I know all my college friends are really excited to be a part of it. I'm excited to be a part of it. I think it's just one of those cultures and one of those things that kind of goes on in the NFL world where the whole world's kind of rooting for Bills Mafia. And I was talking to some of the people in the media team earlier, and you always see those charts of in the Super Bowl, like who the country's rooting for. When Bills Mafia gets into the Super Bowl, the whole country's rooting for Bills Mafia.
And could you just clear up the whole vacation thing and wanting to get to Buffalo and the excitement, that whole moment?
Yeah. So I've had a long day here. So the NFLPA Summit was this week in Maui. And so we took off in Los Angeles at 9 a.m. Pacific, which is noon Eastern. The exact tampering window for free agents opens up at that time. And I looked and I Googled and I was sure that we had Wi-Fi the whole way there. Get about an hour into the flight, lose contact, can't refresh any messages, can't look at anything, can't figure out, I'm, completely in the dark here at one of the most stressful moments of my life. So I asked the flight attendant and she comes by and is like, no more Wi-Fi for the next 3.5 hours. And so my heart's racing, blood's boiling. And so at that point, it's just kind of a lesson in patience. Can't control this anymore. It's out of your hands. Trust in my agents and David and Ness at Aura. They did an amazing job. I trust them with everything. And, we land in between the Uber from the airport to the hotel. I became a Buffalo Bill. And it was that fast. It happened that quick. Started getting the calls. The news broke, and then the flood of texts that come in when you sign with a new team. And then my journey here was I left Maui at 10:30 a.m. local time, and I arrived in Buffalo at 9 a.m. local time. It was Maui to LA, LA to Detroit, Detroit to Buffalo, Buffalo to sign the papers. So I haven't slept in about 36 hours here. So I apologize if I'm stumbling.
Michael, as you're saying all of this and just your travel day, the energy's still coming from you right now. We can all feel it. Where does that come from?
I think I'm just a high energy guy. It's how I play on the field. It's how I am in the locker room. It's how I am with friends and family. I don't necessarily have that off switch. Now, the Bills organization was smart not to bring me to the hotel first, because I think if I see a bed, I'm going to collapse and I'm out. And this has obviously been, the biggest day of my life. This has been the coolest experience in the world, to come to, an organization like this. And I think I tried to sleep on the plane here, but the whole time I was just, watching Bills Mafia highlight tapes and trying to like pull up as much Bills lore as I possibly could, and just get like excited to be here and excited to like immerse myself in this great place and this great city, and get to know all the people and looking up all the restaurants and figuring out where I'm going to live, and really just becoming a part of, this organization, this community. And today has been a really, really good day. It's been long, but it's been great.
Marco, I'm sorry to maybe rain on the parade here a little bit, but Brandon just mentioned that your delay is going to be, or your debut, I guess, will be delayed by 6 games. What happened with that situation, and how tough is that to deal with when you're going to a new team, to know that you're not going to be able to contribute immediately?
For sure. So I'll be very open and honest with everybody. And the whole time, we wanted our agents to negotiate in good faith and, let the Bills organization know the situation. So I had a trainer that I've been working with for the last few years. He's the guy that I had purchased protein, creatine, IVs, multivitamins, all the stuff that athletes normally take. I had everything, verified by an independent nurse that everything was what it said it was, and built up a relationship with somebody that I thought I could trust. So we go through lots of drug tests. You get drug tests all the time in the NFL. Never had any issues. Everything was what it said it was. And, so this is somebody that I thought I could trust. And that's where this ultimately becomes my responsibility, because I think as our relationship continued, I think I stopped being vigilant in checking that things were what they said they were. Fast forward to 3 weeks into the offseason, and I received the letter that there had been some form of testosterone in my system. And that, as exciting as today has been, that I think was the lowest point of my entire life, receiving that letter. You go through like a large range of emotions when that happens. Because you feel like it discredits who you are as a player and discredits who you are as a person. And ultimately, I don't have anybody to be mad at but myself, because I got complacent. I trusted somebody I shouldn't have trusted. You hear all the time, like every trainer from the minute you're in Pop Warner football tells you you're responsible for what you put in your body. And that's, the NFL takes these things really seriously, and they should. It's important to keep, the game pure. And it was a real low moment for me. And luckily, between, my agency and my friends and my family and the people who really care about me, they helped me get through it. And, they figured, they got my head screwed on straight that, it was a mistake. It was careless. It's fully my responsibility. It's something I'm going to have to own, something I'm going to come out on the better side of, and use it as motivation and as fuel. Because, while it, obviously sucks that I'm not going to be able to spend the first 6 weeks here, it's extra motivation for me for OTAs and training camp and the whole off-season program and everything that goes into building what this 2025 Bills defense is going to be. I think I'm just more extra motivated because, I'm now fighting an uphill battle. And, to win the admiration, the respect of not only, the players in the locker room and the coaches and the community, I've got a lot of work to do, but it's never something that I'm going to shy away from. I know who I am as a player, and, from now until week 7, when I make my return, my singular focus is to prove to not only myself, but everybody around the Buffalo organization that, I am who I say I am. I'm here for a reason. I think also part of this too is I would also like to be a voice of caution to, anybody in the NFL and younger players and people that I can be around to, learn from my mistake, that as much as you think you can trust people who, you think they have your best interest at heart, that responsibility always falls on you. And it's, blindly trusting somebody because they, try to build up a relationship with you. You just have to be the most vigilant you can possibly be, because the consequences are serious. So I know I have a lot of work to do on that front. I take full responsibility for it because it was careless, it was reckless, and I know that with this new team and this new locker room, there's work to do there, but I'm excited, and I honestly just can't wait to be around those guys and start playing football again, because anytime I've ever felt down or bad, like the only thing that ever brings you peace and joy and just out there playing football and doing this thing that you love, and we'll weather the storm, we'll come out better side, we'll learn the lessons that you need to learn from it, and then grow as a person, help younger people, and be a voice of reason, like a helpful voice to make sure nobody makes the same mistake that I did. Put it to bed, and continue to go try and win a Super Bowl.
Did your representatives, were they open with teams during this process, and what has it meant to you? The Bills still interested, still signed you after this?
Yeah, and we decided as a group that we didn't want to make a bad problem worse. Like, we didn't want to lie, we didn't want to try and deceive or do anything like that. We wanted to play our cards on the table and say, here's the situation, and be open and honest with everybody. And I'm so thankful for the Bills that they still believe in me, and they believe in the person I am and the player that I am, and the value that I can bring to this defense. And we'll weather these 6 games, and then it's while I sign a contract with them, contracts are two-sided, and so they did their part by bringing me here, and now it's up for me to do my part to give the best version of myself every single day. You wake up, you go to work, and you go to bed, and your head hits the pillow, and you're tired every single night, and that's the goal. That's how you put yourself into everything. It's what's gotten me here. It's what's got me here from undrafted Etta Brown practice squad to special teams to carving out a role to changing your body and moving to outside linebacker, to playing a snap at tight end and blocking a kick and doing pretty much everything that you could possibly do in the NFL at this point, other than throw and kick one. That's the type of person I am. It's the type of person that I want to show that I am. And it really means the world that, and I think I'm in the right place, that like I said earlier, this place is all about culture, and I think this place has the right culture, not only to help me get through it, but for us to get through it together.
So 267, is that what you played at this past season?
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
What would you say is your best role as a pass rusher?
Yeah, I think last year my 2 biggest roles were I thought of myself as the point guard of the defense, meaning I'm responsible for the distribution of things. I'm responsible for getting people lined up in the right way and good disguises, hard picks, making sure that I'm buying the slides and protections and manipulating. And I'm a 267, is a bigger body, so offensive lines have to account for me in protections. And so, there was a lot of creative things that we did last year in Los Angeles, and, I got to wear a lot of hats. And I think that's just something I can build upon here, because I've done just about everything that you can do on a defense at this point. And as a rusher, to be smart and to be technical, and to have trained with, Aaron Donald for the early part of my career. And, I've played with guys like Vaughn and Leonard Floyd, and I've just been around some really, really spectacular rushers, and I'm excited to rush with the group here. Bosa's obviously, we would have joint practices with him out in LA, and just watching him on the other side of the ball, I've always just had a ton of respect for him, and Rousseau and Epinesa, and our whole room here at Oliver, and I think we have a really, really good, diverse rush group here, and that's the current state of the NFL. Is there's kind of 2 things you got to do as a defense. Is you have to be able to knock the run out. You have to be able to rush the passer. And if you can do those 2 things, you're going to win a lot of football games. And if you look at the upper echelon of the league, Philly won the Super Bowl this year. Big O-line, run first outfit. But in order to get there, you're going to have to go through Baltimore. You're going to have to go through Detroit. You're going to have to go through Kansas City. You're going to have to go through the Rams. You're going to have to go through these really good teams, and all of that's going to require setting firm edges, playing complementary football, not going 1-for-1 on run plays, knocking out the run, and then pinning yours back on third, and then when Josh goes up in the game, second and third down.
So it's, I mean, simulated pressures, you could come from anywhere.
Yeah.
Runs, twists, in fact, you did a lot of that. If it's just like a straight four-man rush, you're better from a 7 technique than a 3 technique.
Sure. I
Agree
mean,
with
yeah, I mean, based on my tape last year, I rushed from just about everywhere. I mean, I was playing middle linebacker, outside linebacker. I rushed over a 0 of a nose in the wild card game, and, contributed to a sack in that. So, for me, like, my pass rushing is a lot of creativity and moving off the ball, on the ball. And then, even in the times, the simulated pressures where maybe I'm not rushing, is to really lock in on the details of, you have to make the offense believe that you are rushing. You have to make them believe and honor you in the protection. And, that's what I think, it just comes with experience, because there's obviously a lot that goes on a football game. It's loud. Bills Mafia is cheering. And, to be able to lock in with body demeanor and eyes, and every single play, like, looks the same and plays out different. That's quarterbacks in this league are too good. If they know where the droppers are, they're probably going to beat you. So, to have your rushes and your drops all look the same and be able to bring pressure from different places and give quarterbacks different looks and catch them off guard, that buys you half a second. We got the rush guys to go get the sack.
You tweeted that this defense is looking scary. Is there anyone that specifically that you're eyeing, whether new additions or current members of the Bills?
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to T-Rap this week, and I think I sent that tweet out after the Bosa signing, but just to lock up like an edge room like that, and just to lock up a defensive line where across the board we're all going to meet together, and pass rushing, it's art individually, but it's collective in actuality, because as much as you need one person in order to win and cause the pressure, you need other people to be your contained players and not let the quarterback out of the pocket, and to balance rushes, and to have sort of that intuitive feeling with the other rushers where where they're going to be, and communicate games, or be able to look next to somebody and say, all right, I know he's taking a rush high, and be able to cover him up and make people right. And that's the stuff that you work on during OTAs. It's the stuff you work on during training camp and in the preseason. And it's getting a feel for who are your other rushers, and what are they like? What are their tendencies? What's the speed? When we run games, what games are they good at? What games do we like? What rushes did they win early in the game that offensive lines are going to be overcompensating for, and the counters off of those. So that's all the stuff that I'm excited for with this group. And when I say we're looking scary, we're looking scary, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.